Alright, everyone, watch your hands, arms, legs, and feet. Those are closing on the right. Sante Sana, thank you. Jumbo, everyone. My name is Sebastian. I'll be your safari guide out here today in the Huron Bay Wildlife Reserve. A couple of reminders before we head on out there. Make sure to keep your hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the truck and to remain fully seated at all times. It's for your safety as well as the safety of the animals out there. And as we head on out to go see those animals, we are visiting them in their home. So we do want to make sure to be respectful of them at all times. That means no calling out to them, yelling, whistling, making animal noises, anything like that. We get those really great views of them when they feel safe and respected around us, so we'll all do our part towards it. Now we are starting off here today in the Little Etrury Forest. And the animals in the tree can be a little bit shyer. They use that dense foliage out here to hide out, and it's their main form of defense against predators. We can still get pretty lucky though. On the right, peeking out those bushes there up against sort of that bamboo wall, there's an okapi. That brown animal with those striped legs on it. Because of the coloring of those stripes, people sometimes think okapis are related to zebra. But they are actually the only living relative of the giraffe. We know that because of the shape of their skull. Among some other things, for example, they both have what's called a prehensile tongue. It just means they can grab and grasp with their tongues like we humans do with our fingers and with our hands. And kind of up on that little hillside, you can see one of those, or two of those saddle-billed storks. Those brown, there's black and white birds over there. It's a little harder to tell when they're further off like that, especially when we're looking at them from a pretty big truck. But you might have noticed they had some very long legs. They are the tallest stork in Africa, usually averaging about 5 feet tall. Just makes it a little easier for them to make their way through the waters of the rainforest. They kind of peeking out those bushes at the top of the hill out on the right. There's a couple of greater kudu, the big tan ones there. It's one of the girls. All three of them are girls. We can tell even with the ones a little further back hiding away there because they don't have any horns. Once they reach maturity, those male kudus grow some pretty big horns upon their head, so they are rather easy to tell apart if you know what you're looking for. You might have noticed they had those stripes on their back and on their torso, just like the okapi's legs, and actually just like the bongos. Same hillside over there, those rust-colored ones with those curved horns. Stripes serve the same purpose on all three of them. It just kind of mimics what the sunlight looks like as it filters through the trees and the bamboo, so they can blend right in. Stay a little bit safer and a little more hidden away from any of those predators that might be lurking around the forest somewhere. Okapis in particular are actually so shy, it's very hard to keep track of how many of them are left out in the wild. We know they're endangered. The main threat the okapis face is habitat loss, as the rainforest of the Congo where they were destroyed. But when those researchers and conservationists head on out to try to get a more accurate count of that population, they hide themselves away so completely, we're left not knowing much more than when we started. And we're going to make our way down towards the Safi River now. The animals in Safi like to hang out in the water, around the water. It tends to be a little cooler for them out there, so it's where we'll be looking. The big white birds, mostly kind of down at the bottom of the shore here. Mostly some pink-backed pelicans. They have a wingspan of around 9 feet long or so. So just about as wide as that canopy that's over your heads right now. Their backs turn out pretty light shade of pink during mating season. It's how they communicate with each other, and also where they get their name from, of course. This bridge, a couple of Nile crocodiles out there. There's one right on that puddle there out on the shore. And then you might also see some laying really still out in the water. That is the main way crocodiles like those hunt. They lay out there for hours at a time. So they end up looking a little more like driftwood, second logs, anything like that. Then their prey just sort of wanders on past and doesn't really see where it is those crocodiles are hiding out. they are ambush predators in that regard, so they like to sit around, wait for that food, that prey to come to them, and just kind of exert as little energy as possible during that whole process. They can be pretty patient because they have really slow metabolisms. They can actually go months at a time without eating and be perfectly fine. Though they do tend to prefer about one big meal a week, during which they actually eat up to half their body weight in just one sitting. And we're gonna make our way through the Savannah now. That's where we'll see some of those really famous safari animals you're probably looking forward to. It's a really wide open space there, so as we come on down this hill, I'm sure you'll start seeing several of them kind of scattered along out there, or way down on the other side of the fields. If you do see something and I don't mention it right away, it's very, very likely just because we're going to pull up a little closer to it as we keep driving. So of course, enjoy any and all of those views as soon as you spot them, but again, don't worry too much if I don't mention something right away. Just wait till we get closer to it. And of course, you can already see those zebras pretty well there. As we loop around through here, if they don't go off too far, which I don't think they will, we're going to be right up next to them. You can see that truck over there. So don't worry too much about them just yet. Just like I said, we're going to get closer. Might still be a couple of animals along the way, so not going to get into those zebras just yet. And actually, yeah, down past these hedges, out in that cave out there's a couple of African painted dogs. They're laying pretty still, pretty flat. We'll pull right up next to that that little cave over there. But you see those patches of orange, black, and white fur. Those African painted dogs. They do look a lot like domestic dogs. Kind of like big shepherding dogs you might have back home. Definitely wild animals though. African painted dogs are some of the most successful hunters of any animal in the wild, with success rates even higher than your average lion. They work all together as a pack to chase their prey to exhaustion, and very few animals can outrun those dogs working together as a team like that. There's also a couple of sable antelopes there. They've got those long, thin horns, kind of curves towards their body. The way those horns curve towards them discourages predators from trying to jump on them, catch them by surprise, anything like that. Gives them a weapon to fight back with as well if they need to. Sables like those have actually been known to take down predators as big and tough as lions and other big cats like that out in the wild. They're pretty feisty, and when faced with that fight or flight response, they basically always choose to fight back. And then there are other zebras again. You'll see that there's two moms, two babies there, so you'll see them. I'll be right up next to them there. There they are. It's easier to see on the adults for obvious reasons, but if you see along the zebra's neck and throat area, that kind of loose flap of skin there, it's called a dewlap. Hartman's mountain zebras are the only kind of zebra with a dewlap like that. So it is one of the ways we could tell which ones we're looking at there. Hanging out pretty close to each other, you can also kind of see how those stripes are unique on each individual one. It's like a little fingerprint for the zebras, and it's one of the ways they tell each other apart, especially the younger ones, searching for their mothers and vice versa. But let's use those stripes. And kind of at the end of this big loop here, there's a couple of elands. Actually, there's going to be some on either side of us because the boy just crossed the road, but these two big tan antelopes there are going to be the elands. They are some of the largest antelope in Africa. About 6 feet tall at the shoulder. They typically weigh around 2,000 pounds. Still pretty agile though. They can jump about 6 or 7 feet straight up in the air. So just about as tall as they are. There's a couple of springbok hiding behind the bushes as well. They might be more visible as we come on up this hill there just because they are so small, but if you saw them peeking out to these little tan animals with some white underbellies up on that hillside, it's a couple of springbok there. They're about 3 feet tall, that's why it is pretty easy for them to disappear behind the grasses. Really, really fast though. Springbok like those, again, we'll try to find them as we come up the hill. They go about 55 miles per hour. They're in the top 10 fastest animals in the whole world. And they also jump around 6 feet straight up in the air or 13 feet across with a running start. They use that agility of theirs to keep safe from predators. And then before we do go up that hill, there's a couple of giraffes down by the palm trees. These are all Maasai giraffes. up to 20 feet tall. They are the tallest animal in the world. That height on them means they can reach food from the tallest of trees out on the savannah. They don't have to worry quite as much about competing for resources when most animals can't even reach the height those giraffes tend to eat from in the first place. Though we do still pretty often see them bending down to eat off bushes or grasses. They have really flexible necks, the giraffe. They have more spacing between those vertebrae than us humans and a lot of other mammals do, and that extra spacing helps keep those necks nice and flexible so they can eat from up high, down low, wherever they want to, and most importantly, wherever they need to. And on either side of us, there are all those gray ones or some wildebeest. We do tend to see them in those groups and in those herds because that's how they stay safe from predators, just kind of finding that safety in numbers. They'll actually migrate with about 1.5 million or so wildebeest at a time. They are some of the most densely populated mammals on the planet, second only to us humans. Just a moment as we loop around this little island here. It's going to be a whole bunch of greater flamingos. There's also a couple of elephants hiding in that very back corner. They're not super visible, unfortunately. I think they're mostly just sort of hiding away from the rain back there. But you can see a little bit of those backs and ears peeking out. Now out on the island, you can actually see a couple of baby flamingos. There's two here on the edge closest to us, those little gray ones, and there's one out on the other at the very front of the island. They're about 2-3 months old. They're going super fast, so they're almost as big as the adults already, but they still have those little baby feathers in there. The eastern part of the savannah. We'll actually also see some white rhinos out here. There's two of them I can see already. I have a feeling there's going to be some more around here somewhere. They're pretty social, so they usually hang out in bigger groups than just a pair. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for some more of them. White rhinos are about 5,000 pounds large, so they are pretty massive. They are the most stable of the rhino populations. But they still do face a lot of those same threats in poaching as other rhino species do. Mainly, they are hunted down for their horns. Some people think those rhino horns have some sort of value to them, medicinal or otherwise, or they're just made up of keratin, same material as our hair and our fingernails. So they are basically worthless. Just kind of an extra sad reason to know that's why those animals are in so much danger out in the wild and out in their homes over. And again, we will be on the lookout for some more rhinos around here. If you see them, or if I see them, I'll definitely be sure to say something. But on the way there, there's cheetahs and water bugs. We'll start off with the cheetahs. You can see her laying down. There's a couple more hiding over there, but that one right by the trees and the rocks is probably the easiest to spot. They're beautiful cats. Very, very impressive as well. They go about 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds and have top speeds of around 72 miles per hour. They are the fastest animal on land. And then those shaggy gray ones just sort of grazing out there, that's those water bucks. They do drink a lot of water for an antelope. It's one of the reasons they get their name. But they also run off into that water when they're being chased down by predators to try to get them out of their comfort zone, give themselves a little bit more of a fighting chance. Because of that, they are pretty hesitant to migrate. even if it is just to go find a new source of water to live by. So they are especially vulnerable to any periods of drought or anything else that just kind of dries out those areas where the water bugs tend to live. And there is some more white rhinos coming up over here. Maybe on that little hillside down the right. Also going to be some lions out here, so we're going to have some rhinos on the right, some lions up on the left there. I'll get into those lions in just a second. As we pull a little further forward here, might be able to see them a little better. You might see those rhinos' ears kind of twitching, rotating there, especially towards us as we drive past and kind of interrupt that nap of theirs. They have really sensitive hearing, the rhinos. They can't see super well, so they like to use those other senses of theirs to help them navigate, like that hearing, and also a pretty great sense of smell. And of course, there's those two lions napping. Not too surprising to see them just sleeping and resting this time of day. Lions are nocturnal, so they're more active pretty late at night, early in the morning, when just about everything else is fast asleep. It makes it easier to ambush their prey that way, but also their night vision is way better. They see about as well as we do during the day, but 6 times better than us at night, so it just makes more sense to go out when it's darker. The boys will sleep and rest about 20 hours a day. The girls slightly less, about 18. So 9 times out of 10, if we are lucky enough to see a lion at all, which is certainly not a given, they'll be napping and resting out there like those two were. There's actually a couple of ostriches here. Ostriches are not quite the biggest bird in the world, but they are the tallest. So girls like these here will be about 6-7 feet tall. The males will be around 9 feet tall. They can't fly. They are too heavy for it, as you can probably guess. But I wouldn't feel too bad for them if I were you, because they are actually the fastest animal on 2 legs. So not quite as fast as the cheetahs, but they do go about 40 miles per hour. And they use those wings to help stabilize themselves and to change direction when they're going really, really fast like that. We are just about done with our safari here. Just going to be driving past the warden's post on our way out. And the warden's been taking care of some little Nigerian dwarf goats lately. I have a feeling they'll be kind of hiding out on that front porch. And yeah, there's some in the back of the truck too. They just don't really love the rain. They are very cute. They look a lot like baby goats, but all of those there are fully grown. That is about as big as a Nigerian dwarf goat's ever going to get to be. We are going to sit tight together just a couple more minutes to pull up one of those unloading docks where you can head on out and do the rest of your day out here. We did get to see a lot of really beautiful animals today, which is always a treat. Not just because they are, of course, absolutely stunning, but also because so many of them are endangered out in the wild, so it's nice to see them while they're still around and while we still can. Although just because they're endangered doesn't mean we should give up on them completely, of course. We can all do our part to help keep those animals safe and on our planet for as long as possible. Whether that's contributing to conservation funds that help them out in the wild, or looking into ways to make our homes and lifestyles a little more sustainable for those animals, for our planet, and for ourselves as well. Of course, it's our planet too, after all. If I have any wilderness explorers on board today, I've been on the Simba one. That'll be on pages 14 and 15 of that Wilderness Explorer booklet for you. When you exit, you'll find yourself kind of at the bottom of a little hill area, and hanging around there somewhere should be someone wearing all green. Lovely, let's have that badge for you. And we're going to be pulling up to that second dock up ahead here in just a moment. So if you haven't already, now is a good time to double check those rows. Make sure you have everything you brought on board with you today. I would double check pockets on yourself or on your bags just to make sure nothing tumbled out during the bumpier parts of the reserve or anything like that. out here in Harambe, we like to say Kwaherini. That is Swahili for goodbye, so Kwaherini everyone. Once again, my name is Sebastian. If anyone has any lingering questions or just wants to say hi, feel free to come on up to my window. It's always open. But if not, Kwaherini, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day out here, wherever that might take you.